you. It's okay.
You trust? Hey, don't trust me. Don't trust me. Trust me, Nini. Have you seen your friend? Have you seen your friend? Huyu mwenye unamwacha hapa? Then you want to go away for 3 days. Uniache mimi hapana. I'm not that strong. I'm not that strong. Haitawezekana.
Babe, what are you talking about?
Hiyo sitatoboa.
Okay, baby.
Kuna vitu tu kama you as a person you have to know umemwangalia huyu?
Na huyu
ni nini hiyo? Kama hakuna mahali atalala, wacha basi mimi nimwachie nyumba, wacha alale hapa, mimi nitalala kwa Airbnb.
Are you joking?
I want to still be married next week. Wachana mimi.
Are you nini wewe unaniaibisha?
Welcome to Kotel Kota Explainer on this serious public holiday for the Muslims and all Kenyans. We wish you a good and fantastic Eid Mubarak as we celebrate eating a lot of ribs of goat after kufungua. Today we revisit one question that has featured about land. How do you protect your land? How do you ensure those ones who are in America, yourself, you are staying there? That is known. You can fence your land and protect it. You can put CCTV on your land and you are able to protect it. But how do you protect your land legally? Not by force, not by technology, legally. There are 3 ways to protect your land. First is what you call an inhibition. An inhibition is a court order. You go to court, you get an order inhibiting, that is stopping any form of transfer, any form of sale, any form of charging, any form of putting that into a mortgage, any dealings in that land. You need to go get an advocate. If you fear somebody wants to encroach on your land, the advocates will go to court, the High Court, to get an inhibition order. That inhibition order, granted by a judge, you take it to the land registrar. The land registrar will put on the green card that order saying the judge in Nairobi sitting in ELC 274, Justice Odunga, Justice Bonunga, Justice so-and-so has ordered plot number LR so-and-so 222 block what not to be transferred, not to be sold by anybody else. Once you are put there, then that you have protected your land. The court order of inhibition can be conditional. For example, it can say that this inhibition is there for 10 years. After 10 years, it expires. 2, it can be that the inhibition is there until the case going in court has been concluded. Many people will have a dispute. They go to court, but they don't ask an order to preserve the status quo. So today, you have understood. The first one is called an inhibition. The second one is called a caution. A caution is you, the owner of the land. You walk to a land registrar. You walk to a land registry. There is a form. You tell the land registrar, I want to put a caution over this land. They'll give you a form. You will fill that form, your details, and why you want the land not to be sold, not to be transferred, not to be done anything. You put a caution. Why is a caution very, very important? When husbands die, the family of the husband will say, we don't know you as a widow. They will carry the title deed. Immediately your husband dies, the first thing the in-laws do is get into the house, steal the title deeds. They go away with the ID of your husband. Or when a second wife is brought, the first wife, or when she's being chased, the property documents are taken. Whichever condition that happens, the only way to save the property is you walk and put a caution there. First wives, the land is registered in the name of your husband. He has gotten a new girl. He has gotten a new girlfriend. He has moved on. You have got to rush immediately and put a caution over this land, because he is likely to transfer this land to the next woman. Lastly, are you aware that sometimes people go and they get loans with your land? Somebody, your husband, can go and get land. Your land, he can take it and put it to a Shylock, and the Shylock will transfer that land. You think you have a title deed? So the second step I've taught you is to put a caution on your property. That land, that house, what it will cost you less than 150 shillings to put a caution on the land. The third option is what is called restriction. This is done by the land registrar. The land registrar by himself or herself can put a restriction on the land. That this land cannot be sold, this land cannot be disputed, this land cannot be transferred. If, for example, the government wants to do a project on that land, the land registrar can put a restriction. 2, you can go yourself and request the land registrar to put a restriction. If you think your husband, your boyfriend, your somebody, your son or anybody wants to take that land. So today, Kotel Kopt has brought this message to those who are sitting comfortable, but their land might be taken. Go to court, get an inhibition order, go yourself, put a caution. Lastly, go tell the registrar to put a restriction. Wakili Dansan Omari wishes you a good Eid Mubarak as you celebrate the end of fasting. The holy month of Ramadani has come to an end. As we move forward, protect your land from grabbers. Grabbers can take your land. They are not only coming from within your family. Anybody, a grabber, a broker can get your land. You now have the free instruments that has brought you. Wakili Dansan Omari.
Meet Susan Smith, a woman who her 2 kids, but that's not even the craziest part. The craziest part is why she did it. It's because they were simply in her way. And to understand what I mean, first we got to understand her phone call to police. She called them up and said, look, I was driving my car. A black man stopped me, stole my car with my 2 kids inside. The police drove straight to her, and she white too. They probably got there 2 seconds flat. They said, girl, what happened? She said, yeah, man, they stole my car, and he was black. He looked like this. The news catches wind of this. It becomes a media frenzy. Now, as I show you the following pictures, I want you to take a look at Susan Smith's face and her husband David's face. Okay, so Susan and David, her husband, remember, are doing a bunch of interviews, calling for the return of their 2 boys. Whole time, remember, I said, look at her face. The police watching, they said, okay, David looks crushed. Susan, she never really looked that crushed. They said, all right, maybe we tripping, but let's look at another picture. The police said, okay, she kind of looked crushed here. The interviewers, the news company that was interviewing them, they said, well, before we started, she was over there laughing and joking, saying, oh, we about to be on TV to David. David not paying attention to her. He just looking straight. The police said, she said that? They said, yeah, we snitching. The police said, Susan, go ahead, come into the office. We need to talk to you real quick. Susan said, me? They said, yeah, you girl, come here. So they called Susan into the station, and upon further inspection, they're not liking her story too much. A black person did it. It just sounds like a convenient story, pointing out the black guy, especially since all of this happened in South Carolina, a state with not the best track record in terms of racism. And this absolutely caused deep racial tensions in the town. Police was running through black people's houses. Then police looked around and said, man, there's only so many black people that live in this town, though. Black people the whole time were like, yeah, duh. Matter of fact, in the words of the current mayor of Susan's town, he said the black community knew a black person didn't do it. So this creates insane pressure on Susan. The rising racial tensions, the police constantly bombarding her. She just comes out and confesses. She said, I did it. And here's where things start to get wicked. They asked, okay, well, how'd you do it? She said she drove her car into a lake. Her 2 sons were inside, and she just watched it happen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wow, that sounds terrible, but it gets worse, because the prosecutor said to fuel his theory in order to prosecute Susan Smith, he ran a test of how long it would take the car to sink, and it took a long time, meaning Susan watched her sons panic and did nothing. Oh, and by the way, they were 3 and 14 months years old. So now the obvious question is, why did she do it? In her words, she didn't feel she was fit to be a good mother. Now, it's clear that her defense was going for the poor me, I'm mentally unstable angle. And I'm not gonna lie, it's giving mentally unstable, just not in the way that her defense attorney was hoping. He said, look, everybody, Susan Smith got problems. Judge said, what kind of problems? So the defense attorney calls in her stepfather. Her stepfather said, look, while Susan Smith was growing up, I did some things that I should not have been doing, and I should probably be in jail. He didn't say that part, but that's my ad lib. He said, we was in like a relationship type. He said, I just want to apologize to Susan from the bottom of my heart. All of this is my fault. The defense attorney said, oh my goodness. When did that relationship with Susan stop? He said, stop? Nah, we still in a relationship, son. Yeah, while she was married, I was still with her. But I would like to apologize, though. The judge said, hold on, she was seeing her stepfather while she was seeing her husband? The defense attorney said, yes, and while she was seeing her boyfriend, Tom. The judge said, hold on, so she had a boyfriend, she had a husband while she was with her stepfather? The defense attorney said, no, you're not listening. She was also seeing her boyfriend's dad, too. So she was seeing her husband, she was seeing her boyfriend's dad, and her stepdad. But then her boyfriend broke up with her because she confessed to her boyfriend that she was seeing her boyfriend's dad. And she had to confess because when she was seeing David said, you better confess to your boyfriend because since we splitting up, then I'm going to snitch on you about your boyfriend. Whole time she was seeing her stepdad. Yeah, remember that. Yeah, the big thing about Susan is she craved attention. That's why she couldn't help herself when the cameras were on. She especially craved male attention. That's why she was with all these dudes at the same time. So what does this have to do with her 2 kids? Well, the prosecutor said, you know what's crazy? We found a letter, and that letter is of, listen closely, Tom, remember, Susan's boyfriend, saying he does not want to be with Susan anymore because Susan has kids. But according to police, Tom probably just didn't want to be with her anyway. Oh, because of the fact that she was also seeing Tom's dad. And Tom didn't really seem to really like her that much. In fact, when they brought an officer who interviewed Susan to the stand, he said, I asked Susan, what is your biggest regret in all of this? She says, I regret telling Tom that I was seeing his dad. She didn't mention nothing about the kids. She said, I regret telling Tom about the whole dad thing. So prosecutors are like, yeah, well, there's your reason right there. She wanted to be with Tom so bad that she wanted to get rid of anything standing in her way of that relationship. In her mind, one of those things was the kids, because remember what she read in the letter. In fact, in the car's trunk were pictures and photo albums of Susan with David and her kids, as if to say, I'm leaving my old life behind. She put everything involving her old life in the car, including, tragically, her 2 children. Now, the judge said, jury, do you have, jury said guilty. So, this was a simple one. Jury had to choose between the penalty and life in prison. The jury actually chose life in prison, which disappointed a lot of people. In the jury's words, they chose life in prison because they wanted her to forever and ever think about what she did. But sometimes life doesn't always mean life. 2 years ago, 2024, Susan was eligible for parole, meaning basically she can get out of prison. She was denied parole, though, because of her conduct in prison. She was having a relationship with one of the guards. She was partaking in uses of material that she should not have been partaking in. So they told her, look, if you can't behave in prison, what makes you think that we're going to trust you to behave outside of prison? They said, deny. On top of that, the father of the 2 children, David, came out and gave a very, very heartfelt testimony saying that, look, dude, like 2 kids, like our total time that she's been in jail is 30 years. He said 15 years for each kid is not enough. She got to sit there for life. Now, she is eligible for parole every 2 years, but it doesn't seem like she's going to get it for a little while.
Let me tell you something. Because of those differences, 3 things will sort you out. Number 1, learn forgiveness. No marriage can last. We've been married, like I said, 46 years. The reason we enjoy each other's company is because Rebecca does not remember how I annoyed her last week. Because I keep annoying her. But by her forgiving me, we can begin on a new plate. Are we together? The moment there is no forgiveness, there will be no joy in marriage. People do not enjoy marriage because they have no differences. They enjoy marriage because they know how to resolve conflict. So you need to understand forgiveness is the key word. All enjoyable marriages are enjoyable because people forgive one another. And so you need to understand there is no way you can have divorce or separation if there is forgiveness. Every time you hear there is divorce, either one or both are refusing to forgive. And it's important to understand that. Number 2, if you have the fear of God, you see, with the fear of God, He tells you that, and the day I discovered that, I have difficulty saying the Lord's Prayer. He says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass. And nobody can trespass like your spouse. So whenever you are saying the Lord's Prayer, remember your spouse. Nobody else can come to that level. But the Bible is saying, and the lawyers who are here, like my friend at the front, will tell me what the verse is saying, that it's saying that I'm saying, God, forgive me as I forgive others, means don't forgive me if I don't forgive others. So by the time you divorce, you have already applied from God for Him not to also forgive you. Otherwise, you stop praying the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as I forgive those who trespass against us. So the fear of God and the fact that you want to please God will make you forgive people who don't deserve forgiveness. Some of these husbands are hopeless. They don't deserve any forgiveness until you remember that you yourself have been forgiven by God. And that's what will cause you to enjoy company of somebody who doesn't deserve. So the first thing is forgiveness generally. But number 2, the fear of God. Thirdly, love. And captivating love. Somebody gave me a book in 1979 when I got married. And when it came to honeymoon, I took it and I thought, this is an interesting book. And I read the whole book. One of the main messages of that book in 1979 was that before the wedding, you marry her because you love her. Although nobody forces you. So you love her, that's what men, am I right? You marry her because you love her. After the wedding, the book said, you love her because you married her. Let me now say the whole statement. Before the wedding, you marry her because you love her. After the wedding, you love her because you married her. So after the wedding, your love is not based on anything. The only qualification for you to love your wife is simply that she is married. Remember, it's not a suggestion. The commandment says, husbands, it doesn't say try to love them. It says, love them. Just the same Bible that says, don't commit adultery. Also says, love your, and it doesn't say love the few beautiful ones. Love the one who cooks better. Even if her ugali is like soil. All she needs to qualify to be loved is, you married her. So you need to understand with those three, you'll be able to go through almost anything.
Yo, come with me as we go pick up some coffee from one of our farm segments. We have had pickers the whole day picking coffee in that section, and they have called and said that the coffee is ready for pickup. As you know, this is not the Rift Valley, so we do not have huge pieces of land in one place. So sometimes our shambas are scattered, okay? One is here, another one is there, another one is in that other village. But, yeah, we manage somehow. So I have to drive all this way, not so far, about a kilometer and a half to the farm to get the coffee. Anyway, this is the coffee. This is Mbatian coffee. It's bright red and ready, meaning it's ripe. This other one that we have here is called Mbuni. It's just a different grade of coffee, but it's not just as good as the other one. So I get the coffee, here I am with my gunia, taking it home so that we can grade it and weigh it. Now, we have to weigh it because we have to know how much to pay the picker. It's about 10 bob per kg, okay? So we receive it, then we pour it into this receiving bay, all the coffee in one place before it goes down into the machine. Now, I'm going to show you how it goes. Next step is to make sure that all these outlets are sealed because we do not want to accidentally lose any coffee beans. Okay? We have to make sure that all of them are sealed and also that this sieve is here so that we do not lose anything because under that is a ditch. Next, we flood the machine. We have to make sure that water is flowing smoothly through all the parts of the machine and that it is working the way it is supposed to work. Now, the big part, we start her up. She has not been started up for a while. That's why the smokes and the sparks are going to come out. But she gets the job done anyway. Okay? So yeah, she's up and now she's grinding. As you can see, these are the coffee berries that have come from up there. Okay? They go from the receiving bay and then they come into this inlet. This inlet is where now the coffee beans are washed and pushed by water down into the teeth. There's a small gate that he opens up here, and then it's going to let all those coffee beans down, and then they go down into some grinders, some teeth, some that spin round and spit it out into the bed. The bed shakes and shakes and shakes and shakes and shakes and shakes and shakes. And now this one kind of like allows the beans to sort themselves according to weight. Okay, because I'll show you how it goes. Anyway, they go through this ditch and into those receiving tanks. Remember the ones that we sealed? Yeah, so all the coffee is going to go into this tank where it's going to grade itself. There are basically like 3 grades of coffee. As you can see, this one is grade A1. This is the best kind of coffee, and usually it's the heaviest, so it tends to sink down. So this pipe is coming from the bottom of the machine, the lowest point. This is grade 3, okay? As you can see, it has more of the husks inside it and not as good as the first one. Anyway, until next.
Imagine you just robbed a bank. Congratulations, you're holding $2 million in cash. There's just one tiny problem. You can't spend it. Not on a house, not on a car, not even on a really nice dinner. Because the second you try to buy anything significant, someone's going to ask, hey, where'd you bet all this money? And I found it is not going to cut it. This right here is the criminal's oldest headache. And the solution they came up with is so clever, so brazen, and so widely used, it's almost beautiful. They call it money laundering, and today we're going to find out exactly how it works. First, what even is dirty money? Before we talk about washing money, let's talk about why it's dirty in the first place. Dirty money is just money that came from illegal activity. Drug sales, fraud, corruption, bribery, tax evasion, whatever it is, the government didn't get their cut, and you definitely don't want them finding out. The problem is that money leaves a trail. Every time money moves through a bank, an investment, a purchase, it leaves a footprint, and investigators follow footprints. So the goal of money laundering is simple. Take money that screams, "I'm from a crime," and turn it into money that whispers, "I'm totally normal. Please don't look at me." That's it. That's the whole game. Money laundering has 3 classic stages. Stage 1, placement. This is the riskiest stage. You have a pile of physical cash and you need to get it into the financial system without anyone asking questions. Think about it. If you walk into a bank with a duffel bag containing $800,000 in small bills, the teller is going to have some questions. Possibly the FBI is also going to have some questions shortly after. So criminals get creative. The classic method? Smurfing. No, not the little blue guys. Smurfing is when you break your giant pile of cash into dozens of small deposits, each one carefully just under the amount that triggers automatic bank reporting. In the US, that threshold is $10,000, so you'd make deposits of $9,800, $9,500, $9,750, spread across multiple banks, multiple accounts, multiple days. Sometimes they literally hire people, called Smurfs, to physically go bank to bank making deposits. It's tedious, it's slow, and it's honestly kind of a boring job for a life of crime. Another method? Cash-intensive businesses. You buy or start something like a restaurant, car wash, or bar that handles lots of cash daily. It's hard to check if their sales are real. Mix your dirty money with legit earnings, pump up the numbers, like claiming 400 fake customers, and deposit it all as normal business cash. Stage 2, layering. Okay, the money's in the system. Now you need to make sure no one can trace it back to you. This is where it gets elegant, or ridiculous, depending on your perspective. The goal of layering is to move money around so many times through so many accounts across so many countries that investigators eventually give up. You're building a paper trail that goes nowhere, on purpose. Wire money from Bank A in Country 1 to a shell company in Country 2, which loans it to another shell company in Country 3, which invests it in Country 4, which sends dividends back to a personal account in Country 1. After 5 or 6 moves like this, even trained financial investigators lose the thread, and that's the whole point. Shell companies are very useful for this. A shell company is a company that exists legally on paper, but does basically nothing in real life. No employees, no products, no office, just a name, an address, and a bank account. In places like the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, or Delaware, yes, Delaware, right there in the good old United States of America, you can create a shell company for a few $100s, and the real owner's name doesn't have to appear anywhere public. So if investigators try to figure out who owns the money, they find a company, which is owned by another company, which is owned by a trust, which is managed by a lawyer, bound by attorney-client privilege, in a country with strict bank secrecy laws. Congratulations, you've hit a wall. Stage 3, integration. This is the finish line. The money's been placed into the system. It's been layered beyond recognition. Now it comes back to you, clean, legitimate, ready to spend on a yacht, or a penthouse, or just a very relaxing retirement. Here are some popular tricks criminals use. The first is real estate. Buy a high-end condo in Miami or London through a fake company. Hold it for a year, then sell. Boom, your Tash is now profit from a property deal. Cities are full of empty luxury flats owned by these mystery companies. Bad for renters, great for crooks. Third is art. A painting sells for $50 million. Nobody's checking whether it was actually worth that. Nobody's requiring disclosure of where the money came from. The art world is notoriously opaque, which is why it's notoriously used for this. You invest in art, you sell later. Clean income. Plus, you get to hang something nice on your wall while you wait. The United Nations estimates that between $800 billion and $2 trillion is laundered globally every year. That's 2 to 5% of global GDP. Of all the money laundered every year, investigators successfully seize roughly 1%. 1%. Criminals are running a 99% success rate. If any other industry had a 99% success rate, we'd call it a miracle. In crime, they just call it Tuesday.
It seems like Njugush and Celeste are in the middle of a divorce, and Njugush kind of transferred most of his properties to his mother's name. And Celeste actually says that he claims to have a share in those properties. As someone who literally just helped a woman in her early 40s set up a trust fund to take care of her nieces because she doesn't have kids and her husband came with children from the previous marriage to protect her assets, you have to listen about this. If you're going to get married to anyone, and I mean everyone, the first thing is do not outsource your decision making to anyone. If you're not married yet and you've not set up a trust fund, even for the little that you have, I would advise that you do it. And remember, I have taught you so many times that two different types of trust funds. Kuna the financial trust fund and the family trust fund. Okay, that's number one. Number two, let's say you're already married and you have children, or you have a child on the way, or you're even planning to have kids. Make sure that you get an insurance policy against the kid. As in the moment you're pushing out a child, make sure there's an insurance policy for them. And specifically, if you can get the protected kind of policy, something like, for example, endowment assurance with profit, that even in the case of your demise or your death or even divorce, your children are protected irrespective. That is so important. Let me give you an example. For every child that you give birth to, for instance, if you want a child to go to the CBC system, you can have like 2 policies on each child, one for when they get to junior high and senior high, and another one when they get to university. So it takes care of their education. Whether the relationship survives or it doesn't, your children will be safe, your children's quality of life will be maintained, quality of education. By the way, for context, my name is Linda Biomdo. I work as a medical doctor, and I'm also a certified and a licensed financial advisor and insurance agent with the Kenya College of Insurance and the Insurance Regulatory Authority. Let me give you a very, very quick example. If you take up an endowment assurance with profit, for instance, umesema unajua unataka mtoto wako aende this type of school. Ile ambayo, for example, in university, you want to have like a total of 3 million shillings. And remember, saizi uni is 3 to 4 years. So if you're getting around 3 million shillings, you even up literally getting up to 800K. So hata mtoto wako, in case I qualify for things like school, bachelors of medicine and bachelors of surgery, where school fees is almost 1 million shillings per year, then you'll actually be sorted. And imagine just to raise 3 million shillings, you need to contribute just 10,000 shillings a month. 10,000 shillings a month, this is an approximate for someone who's about 32 years old. Aki contribute that, akichukua policy ya kwanza ya 15 years yenye itamachua when the child is going to university, atakuwa raise 3,036,963. And the total premium ambayo atakuwa amelipa to raise that 3 million shillings is 1.8 million alone. Because 10,000 shillings times 15 years, it's coming to around 1.8 million, right? Lakini utakuwa umekash out 3 million shillings, and that 3 million shillings, you can set it in a way that hiyo pesa ikimachua, you can literally get it to your account such that mtoto wako akipata, for example, something like a scholarship, you can literally spend that money on something else. Ata inaweza kuwa you can spend it on an investment, open a business and all that. But if that's not the case and you really want to spend it on their education when you will come save from the word go, you can literally use that. You can even set up something like that, endowment assurance with profit, as a form of high yield savings account, right? The best part about it is that eco-protected. Eco-protected in a way that in case of your death, mtoto wako atapata sum assured of 1.598 million shillings. Hata kama tuseme uchukue hiyo policy leo, at the moment itakuwa too active. If at 2 months down the line something happens to you, your kids will be protected. And you can even protect them against your spouse in a way that even if your spouse has really bad financial habits, you can put your spouse as the contingent beneficiary. Hata time yenye kuna kwanga na watu ambao wako na baby mamas or baby daddies, wenye hawataki wapate access to that insurance policy in case something happens to them. So anachukua sister yake ama anachukua brother yake ama anachukua cousin yake, anakuwa contingent beneficiary, alafu mtoto wake anakuwa the main beneficiary, such that in case akufe before mtoto wake atani 18, contingent beneficiary, they can only foresee that this money is spent on the child and not anyone else. But mtoto akifika 18 atakuwa the main beneficiary, atahitaji mtu explain you. And the best part about it is that you can even add your own your own needs and your own vendetta inside the insurance policy. Unaweza pata additional benefits. Additional benefits kitu kama for an extra 131 shillings per month, unaweza pata a cover your last expense. And in case something happens to you, like your funeral costs ziko catered for. For an extra just kitu kama 291 shillings, unaweza pata, for example, permanent accidental death, alafu utaenda up getting a sum assured twice. So ile 5.98 million yenye utakasha, utapata tena 1.598 ingine million on top of that. And then in case of a permanent total disability, in case uko na drive, uko get involved in an accident, in case of a critical illness pia, for example, uchukue policy ya 15 years and within the next 15 years uko diagnosed na critical illness kama cancer, kama diabetes, easy chronic illnesses, for example, chronic kidney disease yenye unahitaji dialysis, stroke. If you get any of those, imagine utalipwa in millions, in like minimum of 1 million shillings. If you just get a policy, for example, yenye nimekupea ya 10,000 shillings a month, na pia at cash out tu bado mtoto wako atakuwa ako catered for. And that kind of tends to wither the time, like the hard times of divorce and marriages, in a way that ile wakati uko vizuri, una make sure that you pay as much premiums as possible, even way before things get tough. And for example, when you're doing well, you can even pay some premiums upfront. Kuna watu wenye wanakuanga by year 3 walishamaliza premium at 10 years. So in case of anything, anajuanga hata nini ifanyike, watoto wangu wataenda shule vizuri, watoto wangu watakuwa taken care of, even when I'm alive or I'm not. And I think for now, you know it, as in if you want to get set up, just comment future and I will walk you through everything that you need to know, right? Ndio ujue kama, for example, ni kitu ambayo unataka iwasaidie when they're alive. Na pia kuna watu wenye wana setting up something that we call legacy protection. Enye wanachukua a whole of life policy. Na kama uko 40 years and above, for real, ushafika hiyo age ambayo uko predisposed to lifestyle diseases, uko predisposed to accidents, uko predisposed to sudden cardiac deaths and all of those things. Watu wanafikanga hiyo age, wanachukuanga policies za protect their legacy. With a monthly income ya 10,000 shillings peke yake, total contribution itakuwa ni around 2.28 million. This is, for example, for someone who's around 40 years old. The maturity value, unakumbuka hii pesa hata watoto wako wata access only after umekufa. For this last one that I'm speaking of, ile ingine ambayo nimekuwa nikikudescribe ya shule, kama umechukua 10 years, ikifika 10 years utakash out. Ikifika 15 years utakash out, depending on the period ambayo umeichukua. Sindio? But for a whole of life ambayo you just want it to be like a generational wealth for your children. Na unaweza chukua hata when the marriage is well, when you guys are doing well economically, una contribute even ya 20 years mara moja na unasahau wingi your story. Okay? Maturity value is around 17,247,424. Like hiyo ndio pesa ni watoto wako watapewa at your death. So you watapewa hiyo pesa in case ukufe in the next 20 years, or even if your 20 years ishe na wewe uende 10 years later ufike 90 ukufe, watoto wako watapata hiyo pesa kama inheritance. And for me, to be honest, I think this is the best way for lower middle income, ata upper middle income, and just generally middle income people, ata lower income people. That is the gateway, that the only gateway enye to society na the current rules and regulations ambayo unakupea enye you can survive it. And you know the best part about it ni, imagine if 3 years down the line umelemewa kabisa, unaweza chukua a loan against your policy. So if, for example, by the year 3 utakuwa umefika point yenye ambayo umefinyika kabisa na ulikuwa umecontribute kitu kama 2 million shillings, you can take a loan pia ya 2 million shillings. Now kumbuke, insurance loan are not regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. Ziko regulated by IRA. Na kuna hizo vitu zingine pia kwenye ni 100% tax free. So comment future in the comment section or DM future and I'll be able to help to set you up. See you in the next video. I hope you protect yourselves and you protect your future and you protect your family. See you in the next video. Bye.
Ndugu zangu ni amkini, kama mtaki kukula chakula ambayo iko na bangi, na mnisikize, msikubali kupikiwa na kizazi kipotovu cha Gen Z. Hawa watoto wanapika kila kitu na bangi. Pilau na bangi, ugali na bangi, popcorns na bangi, pancake na bangi, chapo na bangi, kila kitu na bangi. Jana wamekuja kutupikia chai kwa get together yetu, familia yetu ilikuwa na get together jana. Ndugu zangu ni amkini, ile hasara ililetwa na watoto watukutu. ni hasara ambayo tutaishi kulilia maisha yetu yote. Walitupikia chai alafu wakatupatia disclaimer, wakasema mkikunywa hiyo chai kushuka labda ni next week, zikipanda leo hazishuki, na wakasema kila mtu akunywe nusu kikombe. Sasa kwa mila yetu huwezi kunywa nusu kikombe. Babu yangu aligonga 2 zaka zikapanda, akasema yule anti yetu mwenye tunapenda sana, Auntie Dorothy, sio mtoto wake na hata hapasi kuongea kwa hiyo mkutano. Akitaka kuongea kwa mkutano aende aongee kwa mkutano ya babake ambaye alikuwa ni yule jamaa alikuwa chairman wa Catholic ya huko kwetu mwaka wa 1936. Ndugu zangu ni amkini. Ndugu zangu ni amkini.
It seems like Nyugushna's.
Ndugu zangu ni.
And so a long time passed, and the Great Spirit gave each of the 4 races 2 stone tablets. Ours are kept at the Hopi Reservation in Arizona, at Four Corners area on 3rd Mesa. I've talked to people from the black race of people. Their stone tablets are at the foot of Mount Kenya. They are kept by the Kikuyu tribe. They are kept by the Kikuyu tribe. They are kept by the Kikuyu tribe. I once had the honor of presenting a sacred pipe of the Kikuyu tribe carved from the red pipestone of Mount Kenya. One time I was at an Indian spiritual gathering about 15 years ago, and a medicine man from South Dakota put a beaded medicine wheel in the middle of the gathering, and it had the 4 colors in the 4 directions. And he asked the people, "Where is this from?" And they said, "Oh, probably Montana, South Dakota, maybe Saskatchewan." He said, "This is from Kenya." It was beaded just like ours, same colors. And to the west, where there's blackness of night, he gave the black race of people the guardianship of the water. And they were to learn the teachings of the water, which is the chief of the elements. It is the most humble and also the most powerful. When I went to the University of Washington and learned that it was a black man that had been a blood plasma, it didn't surprise me because blood is water. And the elders already told me that black people would bring the teachings of water to humanity.
Trump's Operation Freedom was paused because Saudi Arabia put its sandal foot down and said to America, "You can't use our airspace. Sorry, not sorry." Let's get into the details. Some very interesting new information has come to my attention, and I wanted to relay to you. Before the US/Izzy boy war on Iran is even officially over, because technically it's still a ceasefire, there's no peace deal, before it's even over, it would seem the partnership between the Gulf monarchies and America is wavering, is collapsing, for better or worse. I didn't say I'm happy about it. I'm just relaying it to you. American news outlet NBC, in just the last couple of days, released a damning new article that basically says Operation Freedom, which the Iranians are calling Operation Trust Me, Bro. Operation Freedom was paused, it would seem, according to this NBC article. It was paused because the US went to the Gulf monarchies, which of course includes Saudi Arabia, for the standard ABO after they announced the operation. They asked Saudi Arabia for ABO. ABO is access, basing, and overflight. It's basically military access to your land. Let me use your land as if it's my land for the purposes of carrying out this military operation that I'm doing. Let me use your land to park my planes, that's the basing part, and use your airspace to fly over, that's the access and overflight of the ABO. Now, Saudi Arabia is massive. Half the Persian Gulf, the body of water through which all the oil comes out of Hormuz, half the Persian Gulf on the south side is basically just the Saudi Arabian coastline, with a little zit, which is, not being offensive, like landmass-wise, it just looks like a little pimple. That's Qatar, and an island off the coast of that pimple is Bahrain, and then you have a little bit of Kuwait, a little bit of Iraq, and then the whole northern part of the Persian Gulf is Iran, the Iranian coast. ABO has almost never been a problem for America to get from Saudi Arabia. They ask, it's a sort of polite understanding, like, you request permission, like, can I come in? Of course you can come in. Like, of course you can come in is always the answer. But shockingly, Saudi Arabia this time said, La. La is no in Arabic. Oh, snap. This is a big deal. Without Saudi Arabia's permission, America can't fly warplanes over the Persian Gulf, basically, unless it wants to completely set fire to its diplomatic relationship by saying, screw it, I don't care about your sovereignty, I'm just going to fly over. I don't think that would fly, no pun intended. So they asked, Saudi refused, so they were like, flipping, how are we going to operate this military campaign? Without warplanes providing aerial cover, the Americans lose a key pillar of their military standoff capability. We know that the F-35s, the F-15s, and the cargo planes that can resupply with fuel these fighter jets in the sky, so you don't even flipping have to land, bro. I don't need the land, bro. I can be up here for days. Okay, not for days, but you get the point. For hours, for many hours. They lose the capability to use those powerful aircraft to be able to fire at Iranian threats. Control of the sky is like OP, right? If this was a video game, it would be OP for one side to have control of the skies, the other side not to. But Saudi Arabia's refusal basically takes that American super advantage, that trump card, no pun intended, it takes it out of the equation. The article says the Gulf monarchies were caught off guard by the announcement of Operation Freedom. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Operation Freedom is basically America said, I'm going to force open Hormuz. This is the latest attempt by America to force open Hormuz. And Operation Freedom was announced, and it apparently caught the Gulf monarchies off guard. None were reportedly consulted before the operation was announced by America, which is, you could say, diplomatic. Well, it's painful for the administrations. Loads of things have been unannounced. Loads of things that affect the Gulf monarchies that America decided without even consulting the Gulf monarchies. This is the essence of this war. This whole war that completely trashed our economies. Infrastructure's on fire. Tourism, GG well played, it's over. GG, by the way, when I say GG, it's a gaming reference. It just means it's over, right? It's to say something's over. Tourism industry, GG, all decided by America without consulting me, even though it affects me heavily. So for America to do it again in the middle of the war, it was apparently too much for Saudi Arabia. And they just said, no way. Crazy. Its Operation Freedom, so far, has failed. Translated into diplomatic speak, is paused. Right? It's paused by America. Officials say America announced the operation and then informed the Gulf monarchies afterwards, and potentially, because of this sort of do it, then inform the nations of my decision afterwards, potentially because of this specifically, Saudi Arabia said, Habibi, what do you take me for? You started this war without my permission, without my consultation. Now you're trying something new once again without my permission first, without consulting, sorry, not even my permission, without consulting me. It's shoot first and ask questions later. Kalla Habibi. This may be the relationship that Israel and you guys have, but we won't tolerate that any longer. It's a very different relationship dynamic. It looks like the relationship between Saudi Arabia and America looks now very different just from 3 months ago. It's crazy. It's unprecedented how conflict accelerates or completely changes dynamics in a way that years, decades even, of basically no action has not been able to change a relationship. Conflict will completely upend it, table flip that relationship. That's the news. So see you guys on the next one.
Kuna watu wamefanya ujinga hapa nyuma. Wase wanakunywa pombe alafu wanarusha chupa kwa barabara. Nimezibeba, nataka kuwarushia kwa gari yao. Ndio hiyo iko mbele ya hii matatu. Hiyo iko nyuma ya red. Hebu nione. Hiyo. JCJ. Ndio hii. Ile. Naje. Poa sana. Hizi vitu mnaweza jua ni za nani? Hizo vitu mnaweza jua ni za nani? Hamjui? Mko si hamjui? Hiyo nyinyi mmerusha hapo kwa bridge ya railway tukipanda. Tuonyeshe ama. Niko hapa na nyinyi nimerecord on video. Hiyo nyinyi mmerusha. si ati kama wametupa, sio nyinyi mmetupa. Wewe ni driver, uliza passenger wako. Unamuuliza kama anataka tuone kamera ndio. Passenger, ni nyinyi mmetupa hizo vitu ama sio nyinyi? Nataka tu admit, ni nyinyi mmetupa ama sio nyinyi? Mbona mnafanya hivyo? Lakini unaona mito zikikwama, nyinyi ndio mnaanza kulia, gari zenu zimebebwa na maji na nyinyi ndio mnachafua barabara. Hiyo tabia tuwache. Wakenya sisi ndio tuko na shida. Hiyo tabia tuwache. Mkikunya pombe wenu, weka vitu pamoja, enda mkatupe kwingine.
Tuache kusema
Kwani si ni pombe, si ni chupa za pombe ama ni za nini?
Kama ni pombe mingi.
Wewe
unasema wakati unasema wao
si ni nyinyi, imetoka ndani ya hii gari, si ni nyinyi. Hiyo tabia tuwache. Sawa. Nenda mkatupe huko.
The moment you've been waiting for, the 100-year-old fountain that goes to all the properties to get you a little trickle noise. This is our attempt to turn it on in real time, a mile away, water coming from a fresh spring a mile away. So it might not work, so just hang on. Oh my gosh. We had something happen. Wait for it. That's beautiful. Oh, look at this, look at this. Little corners are trying to shoot. Every corner's working. Well, those two. Oh, that corner's working. Congratulations, people, we did it. All right, it's streaming out of the fountain to follow that channel to all the cabins. It'll obviously take a while for it to build that up, but we did it. It works, folks. It works. If you want to see some finer detail, they have these, it looks like a nail. It's literally pointed like a nail. It looks like you can just kind of clear it, or I can stop it. Whoops. There's a tree as old as me. Branches were sown by the color of green. Ground had rose and past its knees. By the cracks of his skin, I climbed to the dawn. I climbed the tree to see the world. When dawn's
waterfall. Jemo. Jemo. Welcome home. Umekuja polepole sana, kwani ulipanda Mbukinya? Ingia. Huku wanatoanga viatu. Toa, iko sawa. Ingia. Welcome. Hadi umenikuta nilikuwa napika ugali right on time. Onja hiyo. Kozo, have a down there. Feel free. Kwani umekuja na Mbukinya?
Ni venye maimai hiyo kumekuwa na huko hiyo.
Unakalia meza. Feel free. Kalia kitanda. My home
is your home.
My home
is your home.
Feel free.
Take up a bag.
Easy weka tu hapa. Easy weka anywhere. My home is your home. Feel free. Hii inakwanga meza huku.
Usikia hata ule msichana ulipeanga mimba siku hizi ameolewa. Awinja.
At
least ule wa ile mtaa ingine.
Ameolewa. Mambo ya kawaida hiyo. Unajua ni wangapi huku Nairobi tumepea mimba na tumeruka?
Si waache nikusaidie kupika mayai.
Relax. Wewe ni mgeni. My home
is your home.
It's your home. Unajua hata kitu yenye nastajabisha. Leo nimepika because umekuja. Mi hapo huwa spiki. I don't usually cook. Huku huwa spiki, huwa nakula njaro na lala.
A few moments later.
Hapa feel free. My home
is your home.
My home
is your home.
Sasa tukule sasa.
Hakuna sahani.
Sahani tutoe wapi? Sioni.
Hauoni nini hiyo?
Iko tu sawa.
Hata huko Ocha unajua sisi tu hatuko tunakula ugali ya mfuko.
Anyway, iko sawa tu.
Mbona uko na stress?
3 days later.
Jemo. We piga ya fresh na huko bana. Kwani usikia harufu? Ama umezoea? Hiyo ni harufu umezoea. Hata ujiosha vyombo.
Nilikuwa
manze tunaweza kuwa tumekosania kila kitu, lakini slippers za mama hapo umekosea. Toa slippers za mama. Unazipanua jo.
Siko tunaishi in peace bro.
Tunaishi in peace nini? Osha hizo vyombo bana. Piga ya fresh na huko bana. Na ujaoga hadi guzi na tupa man. Nini buda?
The moment
Jemo
Ugandensis, Abaki, Mudhiga, Esoko. So is it Soget? Osogonoi. Osugonoi. Mombaume. Dutote. Shida Wakamba wamalizie ya Triva. So hiyo tunataka tuita conference ya Wakamba peke yao. Sawa. So Wabuge Ugandensis najua ni dawa ingine very strong. Ukicheza nayo nani utaenda. Hii dawa wakati utatayarisha treatment yake, tumia in small quantity. Ikiwa lazima tumie in large quantity, use milk. Upunguza ukali yake. Iko na ukali ingine huwezi eleza ukiulizwa. Huwezi sema ni pilipili. Huwezi sema ni vile ilivyo. Huwezi sema ni Wajiro ama Mwarobaini. Bali kuna ukali yake ya kipekee. Sasa inachoma. Na hii iko na uwezo wa kukata intestine na kusababisha ubleed 10 years. Hiyo dreamane itakudrill kabisa. So kazi yake ni mingi. Just from the leaf, the stem, the bark, ile maji inatoka ukikata huwa inalia machozi. Kwa sababu ina maji inakuumiza kuumiza. Huwa inalia. Ushaona nyati kwa vichaka, ikikuona huwa inatoa machozi. Ndio huu mmea ukikata, the stem, hii bark yako ukikata huwa inatoa machozi, inalia. You can imagine vile inaenda kukuumiza. Ukitumia vibaya itakuumiza. Kazi yake majani. Unaweza ile ukali iko pale mpaka kwa majani. Unaweza crush majani. One ni mzuri sana kwa shida za meno, mdomoni. Wale meno inasumbua. Meno unangoa hii unaenda kesho unatoa ile, na kumbukeni, meno ndio sura ya mdomo. Sasa zile una meno utakaaje? Imagine hiyo Kama mdomo ikaa hivi. Kamumunye. Ukiambiwa kusema lugha wanasemaga nini na hiyo? Apige pinja muone. So wale wana meno poleni. Sawa, so ukitaka kuretain hiyo meno zako vile ziko hivyo, hata kama zimetia dodi. Adodi ni kwamba zile meno pangana kwa line. Nyingine imeangalia huko, nyingine imeangalia huko, nyingine imeangalia huko hivyo. Maintain style hiyo meno yako through this. Brush, weka kwa maji, gargle, alafu unatema. Dawa yote ambayo unatumia sababu ya mdomoni usimeze. Ukimeza viini umerudisha ndani, ianza kukua ikirudi tena. Hiyo tumemaliza meno. Unaweza tumia stick kusugua meno. Pia inasaidia kuwhiten meno na kuua viini vyale vinasababisha meno kuwa na shida. Tukienda kwa back, umesema hata the leaves inafanya, but the backs mara mingi ndio hutumika in small quantity. It is responsible.
Kwa back inapatikana kwa kuchemsha hiyo kijiko moja unatumia na glasi ya maziwa.
So yeah, but generally ukiweza kutumia quarter teaspoon. Yeah, but quarter teaspoon is enough for half a glass of milk. Ukitaka kudeal na mambo ya respiratory, iwe ni asthma ile iko chronic, wabuja, bronchitis, chest congestion, TB, wabuja, but in small quantity, usiitumie zaidi. Nataka kutibu diabetes na pressure, situmii maziwa sasa, natumia kile kinaitwa strong tea. Tengeneza turuki, uchukue quarter glass ya hiyo maji ya hii na quarter glass ya turuki, changanya hiyo maji pamoja. Unakunywa twice a day for diabetes. Jambo lingine, allergies. Ile mtu anasinizi bila mpango, unatumia hii. Na this is one of the herbs ile inatengeneza formula ya epilepsy herbs. Same as conversion na hizo zingine.
Na mama mjamzito asitumie hii.
Yeah, mjamzito ukitumia hii utafanya.
She merely glanced down at her phone for a moment, but in the next second, an accident occurred. Deeply in debt, her heart was filled with panic. As she got out of the car to check, she saw a man sitting calmly in a patch of flowers. No sign of faking an injury. Instead, he was admiring the wildflowers. She wanted to call an ambulance right away, but the man's eyes fell upon her floral dress. J'aime beaucoup votre robe. Louise thought he seemed a bit slow. What she didn't know was that he was a brilliant genius, someone who could solve her $1 million debt with a flick of his fingers. To prevent infection, Louise rushed home to get her medical kit. Glass bottles hung from the trees, swaying gently in the breeze, making a crisp clinking sound. Captivated by the sight, the man seemed momentarily lost in thought. He asked why she hung bottles in the trees. Louise explained that it helped the fruit grow inside the bottles, so she could make pear brandy. A soft breeze blew, the leaves rustled, and his every movement seemed to carry an extraordinary grace. His clear eyes made Louise feel completely at ease, with no trace of wariness. She invited him home for dinner. She also tried to tend to his wound, but he immediately moved away. Louise could only put the medicine down and let him handle it himself. Only after she had walked away did the usually quiet Pierre pick up a small snack, take a gentle bite. Then, a sudden clap of thunder sounded outside. Louise wanted him to stay the night, but Pierre was too absorbed in his work to stop, constantly switching the light on and off. Louise thought he had hit his head too hard, feeling deeply guilty and worried. She didn't realize he had been keeping an eye on the weather data to prevent any accidents at her orchard. Pierre had severe OCD. Even when staying at someone else's home, he would clean up meticulously. He even washed Louise's dirty laundry. At dawn the next morning, he sat on a swing, completely at ease. The flocks of birds in the sky, the flowers on the trees, everything made him feel deeply relaxed. He looked up at the clouds, lightly brushed his hand over the wild grass, watched the breeze carry petals gently through the air, and immediately reached out to touch them, as if trying to feel the shape of the wind. Louise noticed all of this. Her fondness for this strange man grew a little more, but that still didn't mean she could keep a stranger in her house indefinitely. So before work, she drove Pierre to the train station. Louise parked in front of the bank, telling him to take a taxi home. But when Pierre was left alone, the noise around him made him restless.
Magoroki icio tikabira magoroki buraje mahorera menda kuma bara maume wa githomo ai ano he ungi urati haha eli tata ne ngũgĩa kidney stone. Nĩ haha urocio tene. Nĩ haha. Nĩ haha baba itũ. Mama. Raina rwĩmbo. Nĩ haha. Nĩ ndĩrakona gaka. Nĩ haha. Woza. Nĩ habura nĩ ũndathimĩte. Ngai ũcio ena thubu ta ngoma. Nĩ ũguo. Thabarĩ njega. Ngai mauga precious. Erika Morika na ndia baba. Nginya tata wanyu Sege. Nginya na thiri. Ngai. Mombasa expect Sege from any moment from now. Sege nĩ ũgũrĩte ndera nĩ ũndũ wa gũthiĩ swimming. Sege gwene juice yakwa waita. Ngai. Igwe bura nje thubu. Ngai. Ũcio mwana ena thubu Ngai. He. Nginya ndakĩiguta ingĩgĩa kĩrĩa.
Ndĩraga atĩrĩrĩ. Kenya rĩ. Nĩguo bũrũri. Constitution are always negotiated in crisis. And after war.
Okay.
Through the Second World War, nĩyo yatunyire Germany, nĩyo yastipire Germany power ciao ciothe, all the colonies, ona kodi ũndũ.
Okay.
Na ciringi ya Deutschmark yao kĩndimũtwo. At out of Deutschmark yao, ciringi 2 nĩ cia kĩ? Cia Europe. Nĩta kwĩrwo out of ciringi 10, ciringi yanyu ndĩtagwo ciringi 10, ĩtagwo ciringi 8. That was the punishment that Germany got. Okay. Na rĩu influence tondũ rĩu system cia Germany ciarĩ tofauti. But they have very good system. Among ona no ndĩcirie korwo Germany nĩyo ya colonize rĩngĩ no tũkorwo twĩ better tondũ at some point Ukunda rĩ na Watamu rĩ ciarĩ na so many German tourists. Na no wĩrwo nĩ andũ arĩa maikara Ukunda na kũrĩa. And they will tell you German tourists are among the best. Unlike Italian no ndio nĩkĩo makorwo magĩka Malindi. No nĩ makoragwo na rĩrĩ na Heka substation gakorwo na harĩa Gogoni.
Okay.
Na harĩa ũguo Coco Beach na hau ũguo Coco Beach ũtanakinya Marere. He handũ kacigĩrĩra-inĩ kena hau njiguo ona president wa karĩa andũ arĩendaga kũingĩra. Akĩrwo nake ndangĩingĩra ndakinyĩtie hajafika bei. Sinakumbuka?
Ndĩrakona.
And you can realize they have influenced Malindi, and by and large Malindi is very poor because of Italians. So the tourism yao, unique, I don't understand it. Italians are so many. In fact, mahiana dhura. Tutigane na ũhoro wa Italian. Yenda ukwĩra atĩrĩrĩ, constitution she created in crisis. Constitution ya Kenya nĩyo among the nĩyo ya mbere. So niĩ ndiũĩ ngino ĩkona harĩ ngino nyende mũndũ anjĩre. Kani hari ngithini wa thĩ kũnegotiatwo during peaceful time. Kũrore ona ya Tanganyika ya negotiatirwo kwĩ haro. Kũrore ya Uganda ya negotiatirwo kwĩ haro. Ya Kagame ya negotiatirwo kwĩ haro. Ona ya Kenya nĩyo ya negotiatirwo during peaceful time. Na that is our big problem. Niki tondũ ya negotiatirwo nĩ bunge na bunge arĩa marĩ hĩndĩ ĩyo rĩ tiwa ũrakĩona tiwa wa magavana na maseneta mungatana na arĩa angĩ tio makĩrĩ MP hĩndĩ ĩyo tondũ methondekagĩra itĩ ciao mũndũ athondekaga kĩmenya no ngatuĩka gavana niĩ power ciakwa rĩ ngatuĩka senate niĩ na niĩ rĩ kũrĩ makĩnoria harĩa kanyama ka MCA nĩguo tũtige gũkorwo tũgĩcindania gĩtĩ kĩa MCA so my MCA rĩ makĩheo mĩcara mĩega na makĩheo structure njega cia kũruta wĩra. I can tell you MCAs are better than councillors. Hĩndĩ ĩrĩa nĩguo. But the thing is this. Wathani rĩ nĩ mũritũ mũno. It is too heavy. Mũndũ ũmwe rĩ nĩ ũrathwo nĩ andũ atandatũ. Why do I need a governor? Why do I need a central governor? Why do I need a senator? Why do I need an MP? Why do I need an MCA? Nini watu acio othe no kwa mũndũ ũrĩa ingĩbatara haha no senator na MCA. I don't need a governor. Senator no akora mbeca iria irathiĩ county. Then we have the devolved government. We devolve the fund, we don't devolve political power.
Okay.
Toledo Senate, the power is called in the Senate. We don't even need the parliament. What do we need the parliament for? Why do we need the parliament for? We don't need the parliament. We just need the Senate and the MCA and probably the president. I think it will get together. That is why I would say this constitution, no, I can tell you it is not attainable. Now the Keriha. Kifakini amenya gogo nikio athondekire constitution na akimenya ndakumihutia aya nio maka implement na ndina uhuru ni amuririe constitution ino ri tukume implement na mbeca iriku niriko watutigira na ni makimwira constitution ino ri no ukobire mbeca kiuria ni atirire what happened tondu ngirwa idea cia uhuru ni ndirona ta cia ingiranaga tondu ukone ta project cia Kibaki Lapsset corridor ya Lamu Uhuru funded the Lapsset corridor. Okay. Including barabara ya Garissa ya Beria gwako. Yarugamirio the day Ruto stepped in that office. Kirugamia barabara ya Garissa area ya Kotulo sijui wapi barabara no warugamirio. From Lamu because me I'm a regular visitor wa Lamu. Ni athiete na andu Lamu no makwire. Kandi athiete na ndathire kungiona erugamitio na kuthini kwina thigari cia jeshi na kinaki cia America ino. I don't know about that, but what I'm telling you constitution hiyo yarirayaga na implementation yani mathire maya twinamo maboroaga heavily on implementation ya constitution 2010 in relationship to vision 2030 vision ya Kibaki. Why do we have a vision as a country agikoro president uri ogukari migaga zitakire akauga dikira iratu dumeru dikiraga cia black. A vision is supposed to bind the country yago no niguo president igetoka mura you are running away from the vision no ru mwathondekire vision yale ya Kibaki no yale ya Kibaki. So our problem is our constitution. I'm also the constitution they do it. Ask me why I will explain in the other video.
Okay. Yeah. Student, why did France surrender?
France surrendered very quickly, so its monuments, whatever it's called, cannot be affected with war.
What are the Caucasus?
The Caucasus is a region made up of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia.
What are their neighboring countries?
Russia, Iran, and Ukraine, maybe.
Okay. What else is in the Caucasus? Do you know anything else about that region? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Anthony. Anthony corrected me very harshly on the previous video as I was talking about the Caucasus. I think I had said Romania. Did I say Romania or I said of Armenia? And my son is educating me about the World War because I made him study the wars, which are things you need to get people to study. Get your children to study. He's in grade 5. He's 9 years old. So I've been giving him YouTube. You learned this on YouTube, right? YouTube channels to watch that actually talk about the war week to week, moment to moment, so that your kids cannot just grasp or get what is given in the books. And now that it's the holiday, we'll be looking at history and also getting his insights for him to give us information. That's the first thing. As you heard, France surrendered quickly so that their monuments
would not be affected by war.
Their monuments would not be affected by war and brought the war to the African continent. Yes. Did you know that? What was happening in Africa?
There was a war in Libya, and again, other wars in Egypt.
Yes.
And also many of them in Nigeria.
Yes.
Because after France surrendered, France also was controlled by Germany. So there was a war in Nigeria and Egypt.
Okay. Are you sure there was a war in Nigeria?
I don't think so.
So why did you say there was a war in Nigeria? You need to study about the Nigerians came to, actually the Nigerian division, because it was by the British, they came all the way to Kenya to help with the fight now against the Nazis as they were now pushing, the Italians, as they were pushing back towards Egypt, towards Ethiopia. So the Nigerian division actually came from Nigeria all the way to East Africa to lead the campaign towards Egypt. Okay? Homework ya siku hii nataka uniambie where the Nigerians were, what they were doing, and how they participated in the war, because yes, they participated in the war. All right, thank you very much, students. Say hi to the people, not on screen, just tell them who you are and what you do, and then we can go back to class.
9.5.
Okay, 3/4. Yeah, it's July, karibu. You'll soon be 10. All right, before have you learned this in school? No, yes or no? I'm recording, mister. No. All right. So, yes, parents, those are wondering what to do with your kids for this holiday. Please have them watch history. It is very interesting. This is a 9-year-old kid, and he has had this information for quite some time, and he enjoys it. He learns it because it is presented in YouTube in very educational formats. Anyway, back to the meat grinder. I'll edit some parts out. Back to the meat grinder. Thank you. Okay, back to the meat grinder. So in 1943 now, sorry. So in 1942, first let's start 1942. So Hitler now, he wants his Stalingrad. But Stalingrad, by the way, is a city. It's a city that is not just named after Stalin, but it's also an industrial city where they are making the tanks, the T-32s, right? T-32s. The T-32s was repurposed for war purposes because initially it was the Stirling tractor. They used to make tractors for agriculture. Now they were making armored cars for war. And so choking that would be important because the industrial town, they would stop producing the tankers that now were fighting the Germans, the armored vehicles that were fighting the Germans. So in capturing Stalingrad, they wanted to add something else about the regions.
Yeah.
What is it?
Caucasus, it is a region with high mountains, so it is very hard to invade.
Okay. Have there been other wars fought there apart from the world wars?
Yes.
Which ones?
Like sometimes the Napoleonic Wars.
Uh-huh.
There was even the Persian Wars.
Uh-huh.
Expansion of Azerbaijan to the whole of Iran.
Uh-huh.
And the Macedonian Empire expansion.
Those are very old wars. When was the Macedonian Empire expansion?
At the 10th or 20th century there.
Good. Now that we are talking here, I want you to answer some questions for some Kenyans here. Some people think the Nile. Where do the Nilotes come from?
They come from Somalia and Ethiopia.
No, Nilotes.
Oh no, the Nilotes come from Sudan, going South Sudan, going Kenya.
Thank you. And Kushites?
Kushites come from Ethiopia and Somalia. An example of a Kushite is Somali.
What is an example of a Nilote?
Nilote, there is Luo and the Turkana.
Mm-hmm. What about Bantus? What are we?
Bantus come from the Congo Basin.
Mm-hmm. Is there another ethnic group in Africa? Bantus, Kushites, Nilotes, and is there another one?
Mm-hmm. There is the other groups which came for trade.
No, we are talking of native Africans. Do you know why some people are African and other groups like the Arabs are not Africans?
Yes,
Why?
because they did not come from Africa.
How can you tell somebody came from Africa?
Through skin color
Why
and
skin?
language.
Okay, thank you. Skin color and language. What about skin color?
Skin color, it's because Africa and South America, it is very close to the equator.
Okay, and so?
So those other countries are very far from the equator, more closer to the north and to the south.
Thank you. And what happens when you are farther from the equator?
That means your skin whitens.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Nitakutengenezea ngwashe, wacha nimalize tukunywe chai. All right, let me finish this video. Ladies and gentlemen, today since my first video, I rarely record with my son present. So he corrected me so much on the Caucasus. I decided to invite him for this video. If you're wondering what to do about learning and YouTube and you're thinking it's not educational, it is. I didn't teach him some of these things. I simply give him channels for him to watch and he's able to watch. Number 2, those Kenyans who have not understood that skin type and the world that understands it's based on the equator. And that is how you can know there was mass extinction of South Americans by the whites. Because look at their skin tones right now. Then you have a problem in understanding what it means to be black and to be an African. And therefore, Nilots, mumesikia. Kama mtu wa 9 years old anajua mulitoka Southern Sudan, not Egypt. Hata sahi I've corrected somebody saying Egypt and Middle East.
Jamaa, ile kazi yenye mzazi wako anafanya, make sure unaweza ifanya. Mama na baba wanafanya jua kali industry. Make sure you can operate both industries comfortably. Ndio hii pesa ya jua kali inatoka, ndio mzazi anakupeleka nayo college. Lakini kwa ground vitu zimekuwa different. Na the earlier una accept the better for you. So mimi nitakupatia story yangu kama utaitake personal. So my father alikuwa painter. Alikuwa anapaka rangi. Niliingia nikaanza kukua kama mtu wa mkono kwa sandpaper mpaka nikakuwa fundi wa kupaka rangi. So my mother alikuwa anauza muogo, buru na githeri. So during the long holidays nienda kumsaidia, yani cooperative busy, yani nilikuwa nazijua poa. So upande wa buda nilikuwa napaka rangi na sheria ni ile moja, tukiingia site usiniite daddy. So that's how we used to work. So ningefanya kazi bila mtu yote kujua mimi ni kijana ya Mtua. Alikuwa anaitwa Mtua. Hadi leo anaitwa tu Mtua. So venye nilimaliza kufanya ka diploma kangu ka banking Mombasa, hii MTTI nao inaitwa Mombasa Polytechnic. So venye nilimaliza niliingia ground manze, mambo ikakauka. So nikaanza kufanya nini? Nikaanza kupaka rangi na mzae wangu. So tukiendelea kupaka rangi, nikakuja nikanotice hii kazi ya rangi kuna time unafanya, hii mwezi uko job, next month uko job. So ikanikalia. Nikakuja nikaangalia side nyingine, madhangu alikuwa anafanya nini? Madhangu alikuwa anauza muogo, githeri, cereals na kibanda. So mimi nikawa kufanya hiyo. Nikafungua, sasa ninafanya hapa Umoja. Kafungua ka kibanda kangu. Nikanunua zile masufuria bigi. So nauzanga cereals, githeri, maragwe, yani zile sufuria bigi, zile zenye unaweza ingia utoshe ndani. Na miogo hapo unapika boil, fry na mbichi. And I'm making a living. Na makaratasi zangu ziko hapa kijani. So mi advice yangu ni kwa my youth ni ile kazi yenye unaweza fanya, make sure, ile kazi yenye wazazi wanafanya, make sure unaweza fanya. Kama ni hardware, make sure unaweza operate that hardware. So mimi duty yangu ni simple. Mimi saa 5:35 niko out of the house, jioni nirudi saa 5. Na take care of my bills, kila kitu. So jamaa, zile makaratasi zenye ulipata shule si lazima ati ndo zikuwe destiny yako. Sasa ukitembea hapa kwa street, watu wengi wanafanya ile course yenye walifanya haiambatani na Kenya wanafanya currently. Na ndio maana unaona wale watu wenye walikuwa danda shule na wenye walikuwa very willing to learn, unaona tu wenyewe mtu hii hako na interest ya kulearn lakini akili ime switch off. Hao watu wanaendelea poa hadi wa leo. Kwa sababu walikuwa ready to learn, ready for anything. Lakini kulikuwa wale na watu wachupi wenye walikuwa wameamua it's education and it's education. Bila education yani kusurvive kwa mtu ni ngumu. Hao watu wanaingia sahi kwa ground, wanapata ground iko very rough. Very rough. Sahi makaratasi sahi lazima ujue mse. Alafu saa hii truth be told, zile degrees na chase ma jobs na zile jobs zenye ziko available haziambatani. Unapata watu wenye wamesoma ni wengi kuliko kazi zenyewe, hata haziwezi ingiana. So inaenda at the end of the day lazima urudi kwa ground uanze kuhustle. Na mara mingi ile hustle ya kwanza unafanyanga ni ile skill yenye uli learn from your parents. Otherwise jamaa feel motivated, never give up. Otherwise jamaa nawapenda sana.
Andũ a all Karau mũtigakome, nĩ tondũ nyũmba nini ĩciraga ũtukũ. Thaa ici tũraria kwĩna macemanio ĩrekwo na andũ magũrũkĩte mũno arĩa me thirikari-inĩ, tondũ nĩ mũhotire thirikari mbara ya mbere, nĩ mũregire gũthiĩ nomination ciao. Nĩ ngũkũmwĩkĩra mbica haha ya atongoria a UDA ũrĩa mahana me polling center ĩmwe gũkũ all Karau. They look so defeated right now as we speak. Marauga DCP no win the war, but they are going to lose the battle. Tondũ nĩ maramenya kĩrĩa kĩraciarwo haha all Karau ti kĩa all Karau peke yake, nĩ kĩa Mount Kenya ng'ima. This as we speak, UDA is mobilizing for a weak candidate thĩinĩ wa all Karau. Maramwĩta mũrevi. Honestly niĩ ndiũĩ mũrevi no. Aspirant acio their DCP gũtirĩ mũrevi ona ũmwe nyonete, no marauga is a weak candidate, tondũ marauga atĩ mangĩcagũrĩra mũndũ ũkũhota gũthiĩ akaingĩraga ma TV, ma radio, mũndũ ũkũhota kũdominate social media na mainstream media na kwaria, atĩ no mahote gũkorwo na candidate ũtakũhota accelerate the one term movement thĩinĩ wa Mount Kenya. Tondũ Rigathi wa Gachagua na DCP gũcinda all Karau means the complete end ya andũ acio metagwo UDA. So right now they are mobilizing for a weak candidate. Number 2, nĩ maramũthakĩra kandi ya sympathy. Ma agent make merwo maumĩre handũ mathiĩ manyitwo, atĩ nĩgetha andũ magĩũkĩra rũcinĩ gũtuĩke atĩ agents a candidate ũcio nĩ arĩa maranyitirwo nĩ thirikari ũtukũ, atĩ nĩgetha andũ mathiĩ mamũikĩrie kura ona atarĩ na agent ta sympathy. Rekeni ndĩmwĩre, desperate times called for desperate measures. If there is a time we don't need a weak candidate, it is now. Tũrabatara mũndũ ũrĩa ũgũcinda gĩtĩ gĩkĩ kĩa all Karau, aume haha all Karau na mwaki ũcio aũtambie Mount Kenya ng'ima. Tũkorwo na mũndũ witũ ũhana Sifuna, ũngĩthiĩ auge ũrĩa arakinyangire thirikari all Karau, athiere Mbaruya ũguo, athiere Njaruo ũguo, athiere Ikamba ũguo. So nĩ marauga DCP may win the war, but they will lose the battle. Ndamũthaitha, ndamũtandũkĩra nguo, mũikare ũtukũ ũyũ mũgĩthikagĩrĩria nĩ agents ao maranyitwo nĩ ũndũ wa kĩndũ gĩtagwo sympathy card. Kandi ĩyo mũtikagũre. Tũrabatara njamba ta Rigathi wa Gachagua. Tũrabatara mũndũ ũkũhota kwaria, akaria agathikĩrĩrio. Mũndũ ũkũhota kuma TV ĩno agathiĩ ĩrĩa ĩngĩ, agathiĩ radio ĩrĩa ĩngĩ, akahostwo TikTok lives, akaria ũhoro wa one term movement. Andũ a all Karau, nyũmba nini ĩciraga ũtukũ. Rũciũ mũgokĩra mũthiĩ mwĩkĩre mũndũ strong, mũndũ ũtekũhota kũnina movement ĩno, tondũ no tũcinde rũciũ, but this UDA ĩcinde na gũtũplantĩra a weak candidate. Ti ihinda rĩa weak candidates, nĩ ihinda rĩa itungati cihana Rigathi wa Gachagua, ciana cia Simba na nĩ thayũ.
I promise to win. Jamaa, ile kazi yenye mzazi wako
andũ a all